Welcome to the Hero's Journey and the Tarot. They have similarities. But first, let's talk a little about the Hero's Journey and what we know about it. This first image is the image of Link. He is from the game Zelda, and this is the image from Breath of the Wild. And he's very iconic, this figure. So I just wanted to start out showing you um, one of the many ways we can look at the Hero's Journey. Okay. In particular, I'm waiting for the screen to advance. In particular, we want to be looking first at Matrix. Matrix is a very good movie to start looking at the hero's journey. So let's start to begin. There are 12 stages in the hero's journey. Where the hero leaves, the hero goes from the ordinary world to the special world. So we can call it like the ordinary world is where we are right now, right? And the special world is the real world. Okay. Just to give you very quickly what's going on. So in this ordinary world where we all live in, everything is normal. And here we meet Neo. Neo is a programmer by day and a computer hacker by night. Okay. He's sitting at the computer and he notices something on his screen that says to him, do you want to know more about the Matrix? Follow the white rabbit. That reminds us a lot of Alice in Wonderland with the white rabbit. So right away, we know that this is a hero's journey he's going on. Now, at that time, somebody knocks on his door and one of his clients, right, that has to do with his night job because he's a hacker by night, knocks on his door and invites him to a party. And he says, no, I'm good where I am, you know. And then he sees the white rabbit on the shoulder of his client's girlfriend. And he remembers what he saw on the screen. And he says, you know what? Okay, I'll go. So he goes with them. When he gets to this club, he meets Trinity, right? And Trinity says that he's in danger. So he doesn't respond. He's like, I'm not really sure if I should believe what she's telling me, right? He doesn't really want to fall down that rabbit hole. Anyway, so the next day he's at work, right? And suddenly a package is come for him. When he opens the package, it's a phone. The phone rings and Morpheus is on the phone. And he's starting to tell Neo, you're in danger, the same thing that Trinity told him the night before. And he tells him what to do. And he says, go to the window and escape outside, right? I guess nobody knew at this point, why? Why would you want me to do something dangerous, right? And Neo, he opens it, he goes outside, but he gets caught, right? Because he's not really sure what it is, what's going on. No, I'm gonna tell you, if he knew who he was, he wouldn't have to worry. He could fly, but that would take away the whole point of the movie, right? So they get him, right? At some kind of way. And then the next scene we see, I'm not sure, can't exactly remember, but this car passes by, they grab him in, they take out what it is that they're put inside of Neo. And he's brought to Morpheus, right? So I think he goes into, they take him now so that he can learn. So Neo says to him now, time to take the pill. Do you want to stay where you are or do you want to wake up in the real world? And so we can have a movie. Of course, he says, yes, give me the pill that's going to make me go. I'm not sure if it's the red or the blue. I'm telling you, I suppose it's the blue one or the red one. Anyway, Neo awakens and he meets the crew of this ship where he's on. And they start giving him training because they want to know what his abilities are. So Morpheus sees that he's got all these abilities and says he's the one, right? Neo, Neo is O-N-E, O-N-E-O. So he's a powerful human being, and it says that he's the one that's going to save humanity. So the next thing is he goes to the oracle and he wants to find out if he's the one. Of course, if you don't know who you are, nobody else can tell you. So the oracle tells him, no, you're not the one. Yeah, but something is going to happen and you are going to have to save Morpheus. So something happens, right? And it seems that they're ambushed, and agents somehow have taken hostage of Neo, and he's going to try to save Neo himself and Trinity. They're all now in the Matrix. So change the scene. They're on the roof and they're fighting, and these people have all these kind of things to, the dip and go down and come up again. And Neo does it, and he finds that he can do it. So he's dodging bullets, and then Neo is able to dodge these bullets just like the agent did. So he's now gaining confidence in his abilities, right? And so he's able to save Morpheus, and Morpheus and Trini escape the Matrix, and he's left down there because he still has his last test to do, right? Now, a lot of things happen in between them, right? And then he's now facing Agent Smith, where he has to fight him alone. And he's not able to kill Agent Smith, and he begins to think that I'm not going to be able to do this, right? So he loses faith in ability in his gifts, and he's killed by Agent Smith. And this has repercussions now in the real world where Trinity is. And Trinity whispers in his ear outside of the Matrix, and it says, it's impossible that you're dead because you're the one. Yeah. And I know this, she says, because the oracle said that I would fall in love with the one. She kisses him. Sorry. She kisses him, and he reawakens, just like in the fairy tales, the hero's journeys that with the kids remember in Sleeping Beauty, where the prince come and kisses her and she awakens after all those many years. So he now knows that he has the power to perceive and control the Matrix. So he defeats Agent Smith. All right, change scene. He's out back into the normal world, coming out of the telephone booth, right? And where he gets this message that you're Neo and you have come to save the world. So he puts on his dark glasses and whoops, up he teleports himself straight up because he knows he's got a mission to do. And so he's back in the real world now to give them the news that they're not in the real world. Okay. Once again, there's another movie that really shows this in a lovely way. And this is a movie that I love called Alice in Wonderland. Right. And this is the Tim Burton one where we're going straight to the point where she's supposed to marry this nerd. She doesn't want to marry him, but the parents have organized this. And so all of a sudden, she sees the white rabbit and she starts to follow this rabbit. And she follows him way down into the rabbit hole. Now, into the rabbit hole, when you go down into the rabbit hole, that is like falling down onto the unconscious. That means that Alice has begun her descent. The hero always starts in the ordinary world and then he goes underground into the descent. So in this lower underworld, she finds that, there's something that she must drink and then she will get smaller so she can move around. And the first thing that she finds on her journey is she's challenged to see if she's the one. And, do you know who you are? Right? What's your name? They say, are you really Alice? So are you the real Alice? So in this hero's journey, the questioning of the identity is very important because this is a path of self-knowledge. So she still doesn't know who she is, right? Just as how Neo doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know he's a chosen one. So Alice has a dream, right? Because I'm not going to tell you the whole movie. She has a dream. In this dream, a monster appears, and this monster is supposed to kill her, right? Because he doesn't want her to find out who she is. So the monster is now going to be like the unconscious side of her shadow side. And so she faces the monster, thinking that the monster can do her no harm. But the next day when she wakes up, she finds scratches on her arm and she realized that the monster is real. In other words, the life of my soul is real. It's not just a thing that people say, right? Anyway, later on, she'll have to face that. Now, she's faced with this Queen of Heart now, who she realizes is a very rational person. That's why her head is so big. She gets to know the other queen, the White Queen, who is more feminine and is more emotional. Now, in her psyche, she has to integrate both sides. You cannot kill off one side, right? You have to find balance. And that is going to represent the integration of the, because she's on a journey of individuation to find out who she is. Now, on this journey, it doesn't matter the name you were given at birth, the country you were born in, the religion. You must find out who you are by taking away um, all those, what do you call it, labels, right? So this is what she's doing. So she has learned now that she cannot kill off the undesirable parts of herself. She's here on a mission, right? And her mission is to return so that she can find her destiny, right? So she realizes that she's the one. She's been given what do you call it, the weaponry, and she's to put on the suit of armor, and she's to face the dragon, who's Jabberwock. But to do that, she has to go and get the sword. So she goes back now where the monster is. She gives the monster back his eye, which represents her eye where she could not see clearly. And now she's giving him back. So she gives herself the power to see clearly. When she does, she gets the key that opens up the box, right, where the sword is. So she's able to get the sword. And then now she's able to fight the Jabberwock, right? So here we go. So it's confirmed. She's now the chosen one, and this is what she has to do, right? So part of the story is here. So when you are the right size, when neither too inflated and arrogant, nor too small and vulnerable, it will be possible to confront the dragon within yourself now. The dragon will represent the ego. So Alice puts on her head and her arm and she heads into battle. So the dragon will symbolize the ego that must be defeated by the hero so that in order to individuate. It's a final test and the most difficult test, and it can lead to death, So in the final moment of the movie, the spiral appears, and the spiral represents the process of individuation. It's a circular evolution around a central point, and the central point is the self. So she's climbing the stairs, and it is not until she gets to the top, which is considered the center, is she able to manage and defeat this dragon, right? And this makes way for the expansion of her consciousness. It's a representation of the integration of opposites, because it's really impossible to eliminate the negative spirit of the Red Queen. She's not executed, but she's exiled to a different area. And the White Queen is crowned, right? So in the last stage of the journey is the hero. She's asked, do you want to stay where you are? You want to go back? And she says, I want to go back, but she's also the owner, as you say, the queen of both worlds now, the conscious and the unconscious. And then we see her on a ship sailing off to China as the queen, and she's represented in that way of the queen of the waters, the unconscious waters, where she can sail upon it or she can go underneath. And so, Alice continues on her journey, but she has been totally transformed. Okay, what are we going to look at now? Now, we're going to talk about the tarot. And here we are on the Fool's Journey. And the Fool's Journey doesn't have 12 steps, it has 21, but it's a kind of hero's journey. So the hero in the tarot would be the Chariot. But before, we call it the journey of the fool, because we start out as the fool, unconscious, we don't know anything, we are born. And here is our learning process, which are 3 spirals or 3 lines. But in our life, we are jumping around these at the same time. Life is not a linear thing. Life is a constant back and forth. Life is like snakes and ladders. Okay, so let's go and talk a little about the journey of the fool here. So here is the Fool in the tarot. And the Fool is now on the edge of a mountain. He has not taken a step, but it does seem like he's in a dangerous position. So every time we start something new, we start out on a new journey. In the tarot, this is a spiritual journey because it has to do with your personal development, your spiritual development as well, and getting to know yourself, and we don't know what we're going to find on this journey. It's also the journey of life. And it is the same story as the Matrix, as Alice, as the Wizard of Oz, as Rocky, the Fifth Element, James Bond, where he gets a secret suitcase and everything, and he meets up with all these allies and everybody who's going to help him on this journey. But he's on a journey of self-discovery. And so he wants to know who he is. He does not know who he is. Okay. Behind him is the sun, which is really, you could say, source or God or whatever your favorite belief system is. And he's separating from that. And then there'll come a time that he will have his own experiences and then he will go back and return to source, which is why the Fool is said to be before we are born and after we die. We are in this kind of floating state. I'm showing clouds in the back because these are the same slides that I use when I teach tarot and astrology. And I'm showing here that the Fool represents Uranus, who is the rule of Aquarius, which is an air sign. So I'm showing the element of air. So here's the Fool beginning his quest. Okay, we're not going to talk too much about the Fool because for that, I have another course called Tarot for Beginners, where we talk about a little bit more in depth. But I'm just giving you a quick once over. The Fool finds himself with the Magician. And the Magician, he's going to learn, oh my God, I got to change my clothes. I mean, if I'm going out to be someone, I have to remake myself. And for that, I need the 4 elements. I need to learn about life. I need to learn about air, water, fire, and earth, right? I have to get my thoughts together. I have to find out what are my talents, and I have to start moving information. I have to start manifesting and channeling and directing my attention to the work at hand, right? Because the table is the work, table is the table of life. And he wants to manifest something. So he knows it has to come from inside of him. And so now we come to the High Priestess, which the Fool learns that there is something inside of him, something vast, right? And unknowable. And this could be his intuition, right? And she's got a lot of secrets. And the secrets are only for those who are ready, right? Generally, this card is brought in at the end of the tarot because it's not unless you have done the work on yourself throughout the major arcanas that you come into this knowledge. She's the queen of inner knowledge, the intuition. Then the Fool comes up and he meets his mother, his earthly mother, right? She's representing Taurus here, and he learns about unconditional love and nurture and the female principle of receiving. Then he's presented with his father, who is going to teach him some structure and teach him how the world works and give him some order and some discipline. Then he's going to be put into a formal education system. This could be from kindergarten going right up till he finishes university. And we're here with the High Priest, which looks like the dean of a university. It is also your belief system, He also represents sacred ceremonies. And it has to do with the values of your country, of your family, of your society, what you hold dear. And it's also what is expected of you in society. So it's a big, big card, And it's also like God, the presence of the person who is mediating between you and God. And for later on, when we go deep, deep, deep into tarot, we'll see that it's God himself. All right. Okay, from a soul level, because depending on how you're going to read the cards, how you're going to interpret. Then we come up to the Lovers. Now we come up to a point where all these previous cards were put upon me. And now I'm becoming rebellious. And I've discovered that I have a body, that I have urges. I'm attracted to the opposite sex, right? And I'm learning a whole lot of different things. right? And I'm learning also about what is my own sexual orientation, because today we have to include all these things, and there's an angel there, so supervising the whole deal, right? And so this represents our adolescent years when we become rebellious and we figure out who we are. In the chariot, we know very well who we are, and now we are going to be moving forward out into the world. This is after you're done studying, you've got your books under your, and you got a little suitcase, and you're traveling out and you're going into a foreign land or a foreign area, or you're going downtown and you say, here I am, I just got a job, I bought my car, I'm like a prince. So the chariot is learning how to control and move with your own energy and making decisions. And the next thing we find out when we take our new car, we go out on the road, we find justice, and we realize that that outside world has rules, regulations. If I break the stoplight, I'm going to have to go and stand before the judge, and I might get locked away. So I might have to pay a fine. So justice is going to tell me, listen, this is how things are. They're black and white. We don't care if you were late for a meeting, whatever. The rules are the rules, and we're going to ask you to abide by them. If not, you will receive karma. So it's a difficult card. It's like here where we are, we have rules. We like to keep balance. So decisions have to be taken. It's also about legalities and documents and all of that. The hermit now is going to teach us that we also have a guide. That inner guide is the higher self. And there comes a time in life when we have to learn to meditate, take some time alone, go inside and find the answers. They're not to be found outside, they're to be found on the inside. So you find a spiritual path, you connect with God, you start doing yoga, whatever it is. You'll see that Osho decided to dress just like the hermit. Okay. And so you start to develop, really start to develop at this time, and you start to learn a lot of things, and you realize that life is on the inside. Then you learn that there's things in life also that have to do with free will and destiny and changes and external forces over which we do not have control, right? And so that's why all these images on the outside, they all have wings, it's very angelical. And we're actually things that we're learning. So this card is going to tell us that a cycle has closed, a new one is beginning. It's just a learning process. And if we look, we see the word tarot here. So it depends on how we read it, what it will mean. All right. And we'll talk about that more in the course. Then we come to force, which is in English is called strength, the strength card. And we're going to learn how to be also the magician, because I didn't tell you, but the magician had an infinite symbol over his head. So does she. In this card, we learn to use our feminine force, where we're not going to fight with sticks and stones and knives. We're going to learn how to persuade. We're going to learn the force of love, the force of being gentle and kind. That's how she dominated wild animals, and that's how we're going to have to learn to dominate ourselves. We can't let our passions overtake us. When the fool comes to the hangman, he learns that life, sometimes you have to make sacrifices for the good of everyone else. It's a card that says your ego is going to have to be put in check. It is a time also for some deep introspection. This is the card that tells us that you come to a point in life where you're actually going through the desert. You might need some therapy. So this is you lying down on the couch and you have decided not to take any action, not to move forward, to stop right here and to look for some illumination. Behind his head is actually a sun that's going to illuminate him, right? So the hangman is a very important card because it means that in this sacrifice to become who you are, you're going to have to leave things behind, people, places, and things, because you are changing. Your values are changing. Everything is changing. And a lot of people not going to like that, but that's not your problem. You are headed on your spiritual path now, and you have learned to discern. So the next step now is to actually let go. This card is telling us that you're in transition and your whole life is changing. There's been a death. Death means transformation. Nothing really dies. It just transforms into something else. So we are actually letting things go because we're moving towards the future and new things are going to be born. As you see, there's a rising sun here. Everybody in the picture knows that death must come, you know. And however, in the tarot, we don't speak of real death. We speak of kneeling and bowing to a situation because death cannot be controlled. Changes cannot be controlled. An external force forces us, you know, oh, you have to leave the apartment because such and such. Yeah, you have to change country. You're going to live somewhere else. You can never return. It's a definitive ending to something, right? Once you leave high school, you can never go back. And even if you go and do over a course, right? Once you've moved into once you've become an adult, you can never be a child again. It is the end of an era, okay? Then we come here, and the first thing they say that once you go off, you come into the underworld and you meet up with the angel. This card will tell us about angelic protection. It will also tell us about one foot on the earth, one in the water. So we're learning now to walk the spiritual journey, the journey of life, one foot on the earth, one in the spiritual world, right? And we are being cared for and taken care of. And there is a path. So it's the beginning of a new path, right? To find out who we are if we're to walk this path. And we have to learn to walk in moderation. As you will see when you line up these cards in the 3 rows, that this is a very important card because it's in between a lot of heavy cards, okay? In the Devil card, now we come to see that this card is a trap. We are caught in a trap, we're locked away. This card definitely represents something is slavery, right? It is the easy path, right? It's a card that says, I'm afraid to do what I have to do, so I prefer to stay locked away here, where I'm very comfortable, having all the excesses of everything. It's a card that represents excess. It's a card of temptation. It's a card that keeps us trapped and it keeps us chained. So it could represent justifications for not making changes. It could be all kinds of addictions. It could be food. It could be work. It could be drugs, sex, and rock and roll, but it's there to tell us that there is a force that you're not seeing, that something has you trapped. And it's not going to let you move forward. It's going to keep pulling you down until you realize where you are. Now, in cards that have the darkness in the background where there's not a lot of light, it represents ignorance. So there's something that the client is ignorant about. And as a reader, you have to really work therapeutically with this. And the card has this image that's so awful because you have, when you confront darkness, it's supposed to scare you, right? So there we go. But it's actually, when you find out what it is, it's like when the elephant is scared, a little mouse and a wheel looks, it's just a little tiny thing, yes. But for you, it's something big because there's something else you don't want to see. And that's why this next card is going to take us out and release us from the chains that bind, which is really quite difficult, right? It looks difficult and it's a tremendous card, but it's one of the best cards in the deck because it's telling you you've liberated and freed yourself from something that was holding you back, even if it's just your own fear. So now you can do what it is you have to do. And this card is telling us you're not on the right path. So the life itself, right? The forces that rule over your life are taking you out of a situation that was harmful to you. At the time it doesn't happen, you don't realize. It's like what happened many years ago. I had a neighbor and she came and she said to me, I'm so upset because my teenage daughter has come to tell me she's pregnant. And I'm so angry. And oh, it was the worst day of her life. Okay, advance to 1 year later, this child is born. And she says, this is the best thing that has ever happened to me in my whole life. So it's a blessing in disguise. And it's going to show you that whatever it is you have to sacrifice, now you have to let go of, you will find later on it was the best thing that ever happened to you. Continue. The next card is a star, which is a card of healing, learn to be authentic and showing yourself just as you are. We can talk a lot more about that. This is also the card of the age of Aquarius. It's also the card of the astrologer because she's being guided by the stars. And you are going to find out that astrology and tarot are going to become so very important in this new time that we're all living in, okay? And not because you have to go to somebody for reading, because you're going to be able to read the signs for yourself. And that is why I'm going to be dedicating to this. You might find that it's going to be better for you than just to ask for a reading, to learn. Okay? Here is the moon, which we see in this card. It's an eclipse. It means it's not going to last very long. The next card is going to be the sun. But there's always times in life we feel like we're going through the dark night of the soul. We feel confused. We have what do you call it? Phobias that we have to go through. We're not seeing things clearly. Yes, and when am I going to reach what it is I'm doing? So there's a lot of anxiety in this card. But this is the card that's going to show us, listen, you have experience. You can walk through this dark night of the soul because you have the experience of all the previous cards. So this card is saying to you now, use your experience to get through this because there's going to be many moons in our lives. Okay? And we'll talk more about that. It's another fantastic card, but you have to know, because if a fool comes to this card without learning anything he's learned before, he can get lost in the moon, and that would be total madness, right? Then we could say that he's really a fool. Okay, now we come to the sun. And of course, the sun represents Leo, which is a fire sign. So there's all this fire. And so here we come to a part in the journey where we're healed. We've gone through the dark night of the soul and we've come out, like, on the other side. It's like Shawshank Redemption when he gets free. All right. I can hardly remember, but it just came to my mind as going through that tunnel, the birth tunnel. And of course, here we are reborn, right? So this is the sun in astrology as well. And it has to do with our self-identity. It's time for us to go out into the world, to shine, to know who we are, and to share that light with everybody else. Because that's basically the mission. Okay, then we come to judgment, which is not to say that you're going to be judged, but you are now making new judgments about your life, about other people. You no longer judge other people, right? Because in this card, you come to understand why the things in your life had to be the way that they were, because it's part of your journey. You let go, you take an objective look, you've transformed, you're somebody else, you're reborn. You'll never judge anybody because you know that if you do, you'll be judged. You understand the reason why things had to be. You understand why you took the decisions that you've taken. You forgive yourself, therefore forgive others. And you come to see it's like you're reborn. It's a total new evaluation of your life and your path. You know who you are, you know what your mission is, you go out and you do it. And that's why the angel is bringing your new birth certificate. And you are actually opening up that grave. So if you weren't living life before, now it's time to wake up and really live your life. Then you come to the world, which is the end of the journey. So there is a wreath, which indicates victory. It's protection. And you have integrated all the lessons, your masculine side, your feminine side, because it's just a journey of polarities. And she's ready to go out. She's finishing a cycle. This is like her graduation day, and then she's ready to start a new cycle. So on this new cycle, she can go back again and study the major arcana, right? But she won't be doing it as a fool. She's going straight to number one, to the magician, right? She's no longer a fool. She has evolved. And this is what the hero's journey is. Once you study tarot, you'll just never be the same as you were. These are 21 lessons that you have to learn, right, about life. And then you will be able to read the book of life in the High Priestess. Okay, that's what I wanted to share with you. So there's a course coming up. Look for it, where we're going to be talking about the Hero's Journey a little bit more. And we're also going to talk about the major arcana, the minor arcana, and learn to read the signals and the symbols of life. Thank you. Hold on a second. Let me just stop this. Stop the sharing. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. I hope you had an eye-opener. Yeah, and you'd like to learn a little bit more. Courses coming up. Thanks for spending time with me. All right, you take care.